Hi, everybody. It's Sherry from Alleged Actually Podcast. I'm back. Guys, it is so good to be back. I am fresh back from sunny Florida, and I was there for a week in Kissimmee, Florida, celebrating my 6th wedding anniversary. Yes. 6 years, guys. 6 years of wedded bliss. We had an amazing time, really doing nothing but relaxing and just, reconnecting. And I think, every couple, if you can, or every single, if you can, get time away from work, time away from your day to day, and just take some time to enjoy yourself, relax, and just do what you want. There was no real itinerary or anything, y'all. We just kind of chilled, hung out by the pool, ate what we wanted, did what we wanted. It was great. But I did miss you guys, and so I'm so glad to be back today. Y'all, last week, I got a chance to check out the Real Housewives of Potomac. And before we get into recaps and a little bit of some information that has just recently unfolded, I did want to say, first of all, let's get some admin things out the way. So, again, I am Sherry, and this is Alleged Actually Podcast. And over here, we do reality TV show recaps and pop culture segments. And if that's your thing, that's your jam, you found your home. So what I'd love for you to do is hit that like button. And then today, we're going to chop it up about Real Housewives of Potomac. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button so that you can come back and talk to me about the other reality shows that we talk about over here. I have a co-host, Bria, that will join me on Thursday nights and Saturdays. We're currently going to wrap up Married at First Sight this Thursday. And then this Saturday, we're going to do some pop culture stuff because y'all know them pop culture streets are full of stuff. Every other day is something to talk about. So to be away from a week, y'all, I feel like I'm behind the curveball. So, and past that, guys, once you've done the liking and subscribing, what I'd really like for you to do is share it with your family and friends. Like I always say, when I find something that I find good, I like to share it with my family and friends. So what are you waiting for? So guys, like I said, honey, I was in Florida last week and I got there on Sunday. So I was able to catch part 2 of the reunion. And first of all, and the way I'm going to do this recap, guys, is I'm not going to go literally from scene to scene to scene. I'm going to hit the highlights and then we're just going to chit chat a little bit. Is that okay? Okay. So for part 2, we open up with Mia. Y'all, let me say something about Miss Mia Thornton, okay? Like her, love her, hate her, whatever, you got to give it to her. First of all, let me just say that I had written Real Housewives of Potomac off this season. Season 8 was I was done. I started off recapping the first 3 or 4 episodes, and I had told you guys, nope, y'all, I can't do it. I could not get past the dissension, the division of the group, the thing with Nneka and Dr. Wendy, 2 Nigerian queens that couldn't get along, the disrespect of speaking on things that are Nigerian culture that we could have been, instead of having a teachable moment, it was made a mockery of. I wasn't here for any of it, y'all. That's not my thing. Don't get me wrong. I'm here for the drama. I'm not going to be a hypocrite and say I'm not. But what I'm not here for is storylines that insult my intelligence and or as a people make us look bad, as women in general make us look bad, or as a franchise that I once thoroughly enjoyed, seemingly to come with nothing. And then you have the whole thing with Robyn and Juan, where Robyn just kind of checked out and didn't seem to care. All of the things that were in the tabloids with him and the woman from Canada, by him paying for her hotel room, and then him and Coach Bree out at the laundromat together, out at the nail salon. And yeah, it was a little much for me. Let me just tell you something. Miss Mia Thornton, on that last episode, her and Gordon and their candor with what had been going on in their marriage and the dissolution of their marriage was riveting TV. And that's why I checked back in addition to the brawl at the GNA fashion show. So at any rate, I already did the recap for part 1. We talked about that. And in part 2, it opens up with Mia just really giving it to us. I gotta say that Mia handled herself like a real reality personality should. When you are on a reality TV show, ladies, you're expected to talk about your life. She sat there and answered every single question. And you know everybody says Mia be lying. And so I ain't going to say that everything she said was 100% accurate. You know, it was certainly her side. But let me just say, it was no deflection. It was no aggression. She literally took it like a professional and answered every question that Andy and the ladies threw her way. The question of her son's paternity that had come up. Whereas in her new man, Mr. Inc. believed her son to be his. She had said, you know, look, that is not, that he did in fact believe that or had thoughts the son could be his, because she admitted that during the beginning stages of her and Gordon's marriage that her and Mr. Inc. were still involved. And so she was still seeing him and sleeping with him. And so that there absolutely could have been a possibility, but she did say that she was at the time on IUI, which I am not as familiar with the way, because I also noticed that NECA had mentioned that as well in her journey to trying to get pregnant, that apparently is also a procedure that is akin to IVF. Guys, you can educate me. Put it in the comments. I'm not familiar with IUI, but she did mention that she was doing that in the attempts to get pregnant, and that she knew her body, and that Gordon was in fact her son's biological father. So she put that to bed. She also talked about how, you know, they said that, well, you know, was the financial issues the reason that the marriage was, that she decided to leave the marriage? And she said it was not. She did make the statement that there were other things that, you know, she talked about Gordon's controlling behavior, about him draining her accounts, about him locking in her room and taking her phone. She talked about also when he contacted the husbands in the group chat and he reached out to TMZ. And she mentioned that all the ladies had reached out to her except for Dr. Wendy and Candiace. And they just kind of, Dr. Wendy said that, you know, for her, it was kind of like Gordon had called her every name but a child of God, honey. And that, you know, she just felt bad for her. I guess she didn't really want to get into it. Candiace sort of mimicked the same sentiment that, you know, she just didn't really want to get into it per se. I'm going to adjust my camera just a little bit, guys. There we go. So yeah, so there was that. And then basically Andy had asked, was Mr. Inc. the rapper that in fact Karen was speaking of? And she said yes, that she had mentioned that Mia was seeing a rapper. Turns out that was Mr. Inc., who is not a rapper. He's a radio personality, which we discussed that on the last recap that I did. And then basically she just went on to talk more and more about, you know, the ladies asked, was Gordon's age a factor in them breaking up? And she said no. It just, I'm going to give it to Mia, you know, in a wrap up her segment, because we'll get more into that when Gordon comes out. So then, you know, they talk about Gizelle's dad's passing, and that was sad. You know, thoughts and prayers out to Gizelle and her family. Her father passed away of brain cancer. And so Gizelle, who seemingly is someone that does not show a lot of emotion, it was hard to watch her actually. You know, she talked about being with her dad till he took his last breath. How then that Karen had also been there for her. And, like I told you guys, Karen is Switzerland. But Karen seems to have a very caring heart. And her and Gizelle have had years of history. So I don't find that very shocking that she would be there for Gizelle in her time of sadness and grief. And so they did discuss that. They did also talk about her season as far as her daughter going off to college. And the infamous Wendy and Candiace making faces when she was talking about her daughter going off to school in Florida. Y'all, let's be clear. That kind of stuff wears me out because in the same breath, Gizelle and Robyn make faces when they talk. It's so childish that I'm not even going to comment on the stupidity of the tit for tatness. Like for when one side does it, it's the worst thing in the world. When the other side does it, it's what do we do? And this is my problem with this cast, and we're gonna get more into that, y'all. I'm gonna talk more into how I feel about them as a whole. They talked about her and Jason, honey, from Summer House. Y'all, I don't bit more believe that that's a real relationship. And to be fair, she doesn't necessarily state that it is, more of a friendship situationship, if you will. Jason is a ton younger than Gizelle. And honey has been spotted out with a blonde woman child. That's his real type of height. And even though Miss Gizelle may be white adjacent, she's not white. Okay. So then basically they talk a little bit to Robyn, and they talk about Ashley they talk to Ashley about Michael's defamation suit against Candiace and Chris. She maintains that she really knew nothing about it, and that wasn't, she had no dog in that fight, that Michael hadn't spoken to her about it. And then Candiace and Robyn talk a little bit more into why their friendship has fallen out. One thing I'm going to say that I was a little, I guess I won't say surprised. Perhaps maybe I wasn't as in tune with the fact that Candiace was so not attached, but that the friendship that she had with Robyn meant that much to her, because on seasons past, I mean, she kind of lumped Gizelle and Robyn together. Now, I know that they got along better, but the crying and let's be clear. Candiace seemed to be legitimately hurt about the fact that her and Robyn were no longer friends, both on the season and on the reunion. But they both talked about how when the reunion wrapped, Robyn felt some type of way with the whole colorist comment. And they go on to talk about the fact that she was mad because Candiace blasted her on social media, calling her a fraud, and, talking about how, she was scandalous or whatever, when she made the announcement about what really happened with Juan on her podcast, Reasonably Shady, instead of talking about it on the show, and what they call breaking the paywall, or the fourth wall, if you will. So they show the text messages, and apparently there was a picture of Robyn, and Candiace is trying to explain her side. And she says, well, I gave you a compliment. And Robyn says, no, you said long hair. And then Robyn made the comment stating that, well, I guess that makes me look a little more white adjacent, which couldn't be a good thing. And child, they go into it. Robyn pretends to cry about the colorist comment. Nary tear fell from her eye, y'all. And then, child, Candiace talks about how she was comfortable with talking about color in her household, colorism, talking about all of the issues of skin color, race, all of those things were something that they did talk about. And so she felt that all women were comfortable with it. Gizelle pipes in. She was clearly talking to Robyn, not Gizelle, but she says, I went to HBCU. I'm in a black sorority. I'm very comfortable talking about color. Again, Candiace was really talking to Robyn, not Gizelle. Child, I can't. Can I also say this, guys, that Gizelle's twisted up face throughout part 2 and 3 of the reunion was really getting on my nerves. To me, it exudes the bad seed that she is too on this show. Y'all, I'm going to get to it at the end, but I know that, you know, every show has its anchor and people say that Andy has his favorites. Clearly, Gizelle is one of them. I'm just going to say this, y'all. It was hard for me to look at her. Looking at them, like looking at her so hatefully or whatever. I don't see. And yes, Candiace has a reckless mouth. And, you know, they went back and forth. A lot was said on both sides. I just wasn't here for her hatefulness, her lack of accountability on anything that she had a part of throughout this season or with the breakdown between her and Candiace, and even in the way that she conducted herself on this season. But y'all, we will get there. So then we get greeted by the husbands, y'all. The husbands do join the set. And so we will then get on to Gordon wants to get into making an announcement, which is how part 2 ends, and then we carry into part 3. And Gordon's big announcement that he wants to announce to the fans and the friend group is his mental health diagnosis. And y'all, the cliffhanger had left so many people guessing what he was going to say. A lot of people thought it was him stating that his cancer had returned, or that he was going to make some other announcement. The paternity, he found out the paternity of their son was not his. None of that was the case. The announcement was that he had had a mental health diagnosis, and he was diagnosed with bipolar disorder 1. And apparently, he stated the difference between bipolar disorder versus bipolar disorder 1 was that with bipolar disorder 1, you had more severe states of manic states. And with that being stated, I would say that made some things make sense, y'all. Now, still, was it me? Or did you guys get the sense that this was Gordon's way of, I won't say, I believe that is a true diagnosis. I do believe that played a part into not only the breakdown of his marriage with Mia, but is also, he even stated his issue within his family's company, why he was removed as CEO. He maintained that his shares remained and that he has removed his lawsuit against his family, which was good news. But he had said multiple times that he believed, had he taken his diagnosis more seriously or paid attention to the signs when he would go into states of his manic states, that he believed that his marriage wouldn't be over. And y'all, I don't know if I believe that. I mean, it's clear that Mia certainly has love for Gordon. I will give her that. But as sad as it was to watch, to me it seemed like someone that was justifying where they're at, and someone that, you know, maybe that's what he needed for closure, but I felt like he still has some hope that if he gets his mental health under control, that their marriage may be repairable. It didn't feel good to watch to me. Put it in the comments, y'all, if y'all agree. It was, I will commend Mia for saying that, because she stated that even though, because Andy asked him, you know, would medication help? And of course medication will help. But you could tell that for him, he feels like, oh no, you know, not only in medication, but if I understand or I recognize when I'm about to go into those manic states, then I can, you know, divert and my quality of life will be better, things will be better, I can get a better handle on it. And he stated that even though he couldn't recognize it himself, that Mia could, and that Mia had before, and she would state it, but he wouldn't believe her, and then proceed to go into these terrible states of manic states. And, Gizelle had stated, well, because that's why I guess he's moving. She lives in DC in a penthouse apartment. And I might be a little bit all over the place, so forgive me, because I'm just kind of getting back in the mix. So you guys are going to have to let me work my way back into this. But y'all, let me just ask y'all this. Did y'all think it was shady that Andy asked Mia how big her apartment was? Now look, you're not going to find someone that loves Andy Cohen any more than me. Because I do. Now I love me some AC. And when I was in BravoCon, he was one of the first ones I was looking for. And honey, he did appear right before my eyeballs. And I was happy to see him. But Andy has a habit of asking the ladies of color on these franchises questions I don't think he would ask one of the housewives of Beverly Hills or of OC or New York. Why was it important for him to ask the size of her penthouse? And she stayed at 1,100 square feet, but it was for her and her children. Why, Andy? This isn't the first time he's done that. Again, guys, if I'm wrong, honey, put it in the comments. If you agree, put it in the comments. Let's talk about it. Because I was a little put off by that question. Because to me, out of everything they were talking about, that was just why. It really had no bearing on what they were discussing. Kind of seemed like a dig. Because Mia was flashy about when they first came on the scene about how big her house was and all that. But child, she had already addressed that when they moved in the house that was 1,200 square feet. That was stated in this season. So it was neither here nor there to do it again, to kind of do like one last little jab at her. I think Mia's been through enough, or so to speak. Gordon as well. At any rate, Gizelle had said, okay, you were the caretaker, and now that things are coming to an end, I just kind of worry about Gordon. Who's going to take care of him? And said Mia says she will always care for Gordon. And Gordon was certainly on board with that. Y'all don't know how healthy that is. When Andy asked what was his relationship with Mr. Ink, he said they were cordial. You guys saw the scene where she was FaceTiming with Ink, and Gordon had come up to greet her, and he spoke to Ink. And y'all, it just seems like, okay, I'm gonna get along, to get along, but my end game is different. I worry for Gordon. Listen, will it make for good TV? Sure, but this man is 72 years old, and his tune certainly had changed from the angry scene that we saw at the end of the episode. But I just wonder, when things do become finalized and he may not get what he wants, or as Mia moves on, perhaps with Ink. I don't know, y'all, but we're just going to have to keep on watching to see. Then, y'all, it was a little bit of some more things we'll get into, but we're going to wrap up the recap part, and we're going to get into, honey, the shakeup, child. The firings, the let goes, if you will. We want to get into that. But basically from there, you had the Dr. Wendy versus NECA. I don't care. Okay? Basically, the two of them are determined they're not going to resolve it. They've both apologized. But y'all, what really irritated me was the amount of energy and that NECA was coming with Dr. Wendy at. And let's be clear, Dr. Wendy is not completely innocent either. She seemed to be very dismissive of NECA. But the fact that NECA stated that she knew her and Wendy said she didn't, when the reality was they had met at an event. Well, y'all, I don't know about y'all. I meet people a lot. And I'm pretty good with faces, but because I've met you somewhere or we run into each other somewhere does not mean I know you. And so for someone to speak on me to say that I know Sherry because I saw her at this event or I met her or was introduced to her, to me is very silly. And so did Winnie take it a bit far? Maybe. But I'm going to have to give Dr. Winnie that one. I think Nneka was just a little overzealous. And to me, it was clear even in the way that she carried herself this season. It wasn't a good look. She gave nothing, literally nothing to the show. I'm not here for it. They talked about how Ashley brought up the Osu comment, which apparently is something that's very taboo in Nigerian culture, which is another reason why, y'all, I was so irritated and disappointed in the two women and the producers of the show. Here you had an opportunity to educate us, to also bring us into the more beautiful, rich culture of the Nigerian culture. And this is the stupidity that we see. Look, Ashley had no business speaking on that, but Ashley had to be fed that too. How would she know? I was very, very, very disappointed in that storyline. I really, really was. I really don't have a whole lot more to say on the two of them other than no more. And it was largely because of that I literally stopped recapping early in the season. We're going to go on to Kiana, or Kay. She came on the scene, and she's the one that was brought in by Dr. Wendy. She was Dr. Wendy's friend and was the one that unfortunately got mixed up in the melee at the G&A fashion show event where Ashley's friend, Deborah, was brought there and had apparently approached Candiace because Candiace had called her Sesame Street and names before because she, on the season prior, had stated that Chris had tried to flirt with her and, Eddie had tried to flirt with her and child, this, that, and the third. Look, I ain't gonna try to pull a Candiace, but I'm just saying. You open yourself up for that when you come for somebody's husband and, they went back and showed the scene. Chris wasn't even looking at her. Whole thing was ridiculous. It wasn't giving. So I want to go back to, I'm going to finish that, but before I get into the fight, I'm going to go back to Robyn and the thing with Candiace and Chris, child, because I skipped that. Honey, that is important to me for several reasons. Whew. So let's put a pin on Kiana, Deborah, and the brawl at the G&A fashion show, because we actually talked about that a couple of episodes ago. So guys, go back and watch the recap that I did on the final episode, and I really get into the fight there. I even show the clip. But let me get back over here. I'm gonna jump right back over to Robyn, Gizelle, and Chris. So when the husbands did come out, Robyn had the nerve because Andy brought up the woman that had accused Chris of having the affair, and the woman that also said that in the midst of that affair, she had gotten pregnant and had an abortion due to Chris's not forcing, but under Chris's advisement. And then proceeds, the woman comes out to say the whole thing was a lie. And, Chris was not giving much on that. And I applauded him, the way he shut Gizelle down, the way he shut all of them. I mean, it was, to me, it gave exactly what it needed to give. Yet Robyn kept coming back. Oh, the screen. So you're saying that the photos of your limp private area, that those were photoshopped and this, that, and the third. Y'all, it infuriated me for her to keep questioning him. No, man, what you need to do is worry about Mr. Juan Dixon. I can't believe that Candiace did not shut her down, honey, because she must have really had, at some point, some love for Robyn, because there is no way that she would have kept coming at my husband about, so those photos, you're trying to say they were photoshopped? They were photoshopped, the picture she had, and then Gizelle coming in and saying that the woman that had the accusations against Chris, because people had stated in social media that Gizelle put her up to it, that the woman in fact said Gizelle didn't have anything to do with it, leave Gizelle out of it. Y'all, how convenient does that sound? And so Do you see what I mean by how this season was just infuriating to watch? It literally was the epitome of playing in my face, insulting my intelligence. I wouldn't put it past Gizelle to do any of that. Why would that woman, oh, hey, I had an affair with Candiace's husband, Chris. Oh, oops, no, I didn't. I take it back. And oh, by the way, please don't blame Gizelle because Gizelle had nothing to do with it. Y'all, really? Okay. Back to the fight. Basically, they had Candiace restate what happened. And she did talk about how Deborah approached her and said that, you know, did you have something you want to say? And prior to that, Mia piped in and said, you know, Deborah did come, you know, with that kind of energy because she too approached me saying that, you know, you think I'm a 4. And then they go and they do a flashback to the scene where Mia had said that Deborah was a 4, you know, she's cute, but she wasn't that cute. And so she had come back to approach her about calling her a 4. And Mia said that she basically had diffused the situation by saying, oh, no, we're all black queens, we're all 10s, and kind of got her to scurry along, saying that, you know, if she had done the same as Candiace by saying, yeah, you know, you are a 4, yeah, you know, whatever, with the same thing would have happened. The aggression, the drink thrown in her face, same thing may have happened to her. And then she was basically telling Candiace that in these instances, sometimes you have to do that kind of diffusion when you sit in the seat of having more to lose. I can't say that I disagree with Mia on that one. I'm on the fence. I'm not, because Candiace has a history of a very reckless mouth. But in this instance, I do believe she was put in a situation to defend herself. I think it's off-putting for those that have watched Candiace, particularly if you go back a few seasons when she had the fight with Monique, where to me it seemed like, again, she was in a provoking stance with the things that she had said. And I did not condone what Monique did as far as fighting her. But Candiace believes that because she uses words that it's not, and it's not. It is not an invitation for somebody to put their hands on you. But you have to understand that sometimes words are equally as provoking as hands. But I am not condoning that woman should have done that. But as a result, the fight ended up such that Kiara got hit, Kiarna, I'm sorry, or Kay got hit in her head with the glass, had a gash on her head and went to swinging. And that's where the fight, you know, came into play. She had to go to the hospital and, you know, she had an injury and it had just got in the hand. And then what I found to be really, to me, unbelievable is that basically Gizelle states that, because Andy asked, well, who do you think was at fault? Like, she was somehow, she had left, honey. And so that's another thing. You know, Andy, you keep dropping the ball on this. Why did you ask Gizelle who she thought was to blame? What did it matter? Gizelle had left to go to care for her father. She wasn't even there. But she said, you know, I believe Deborah's to blame, Wendy's to blame, Candiace is to blame, and everyone. Those are the 3 names that she said, y'all. And then, you know, Wendy's like, what did I do? What did I do? What did I do? Mia spoke up and said, you know, Wendy had nothing to do with that. So then Gizelle retracts Wendy's name. Okay, y'all, I'm going to, now I'm going to go ahead and speak on what I want to speak on. And then I'm going to talk about the cast changes, the new announcements. See, and don't get me wrong. Again, I stand by the fact that Candiace does have a reckless mouth, that she, you know, sometimes it definitely gets her in trouble, and rightfully so. Sometimes there's some things that are just better left unsaid. And when you do come at people, it can be done such in a provoking manner that it can go very left. But the fact that Gizelle sits in judgment, you know, when her mouth, the stuff that she said about people, and even lying on this woman's husband, won't take accountability for any of it, has no apology in her or remorse at all. And then so she takes back that Wendy was at fault, but she maintains that it was Candiace's fault and not that Ashley brought the woman there knowing that her and Candiace had issues, that she had an issue with Candiace, that she actually had an issue with Wendy, that she had an issue, or that Wendy had an issue with her, and that she had an issue with Mia. Ashley has consistently been messy. No one really gave it to her the way they should have. And even though she called herself explaining, it was so lackluster and it was moved right along off of it. Y'all, it was just infuriating to watch. So I'm going to have to give it to you, Candiace. I'm going to have to say that there is definitely some favoritism on that set. Whether it's a colorist issue, I don't know. I think that they are held at different standards. I'm going to give you that. I'm going to give you that I can't understand why Ashley's not held more accountable. Gizelle, Robyn is, feet to the fire. But, we'll get to Robyn. It just, or last season when Mia threw the drink on Dr. Wendy and came at her in a very aggressive manner. Y'all, it was swept under the rug. It was basically that Wendy needed to get over it. Child, when I say that there is a double standard on this show and that perhaps complexion may have something to do with it, certainly there's a case to be made there. So y'all, chime in, honey. Let me know what your thoughts are. I saw it to the end. I'm going to just say, child, they, talked to Nneka a little bit more. They went through Ashley and her divorce or lack thereof. Ashley did her weak attempt at explaining why she brought Deborah, saying that Deborah was giving her the impression that she wanted to make amends with Candiace, which was absolutely, I don't believe to be true at all. As a whole, I'm very disappointed in this season. Okay? Season 8 was a bust, other than what Mia brought to the table at the end. She saved it. Now, with that being said, we've already announced Candiace is not coming back next season. She says she's taking time out. And breaking news, they announced today that Candiace is expecting, so her and Chris are pregnant. Congratulations, Candiace and Chris. That's amazing. But she will not be back. She says that she's on a pause. We will see. There are those that say that she's in fact fired. Child, either way, she's not coming back next season. It's also come out that Robyn Dixon will not be back next season. I can't say I'm disappointed, y'all. And Robyn came out, and I'm going to list it right here. Out of her own mouth, she admits that she was in fact fired. Bravo, bravo. Okay? Finally, some justice. Because she brought nothing, admitting nothing. Her husband don't care. She don't care. Nobody wants to see it anymore. We're past it. Goodbye. Goodbye. Also, breaking news, per the Jasmine brand, Nneka has been fired. One and done. Bye-bye. Y'all, I hope there's more announcements to come. Y'all, it could be unpopular opinion, but I want Ashley Darby gone. Okay? She messed up. She can go. I'd love for Gizelle to go, but I know it's not going to happen. I'd say leave Karen, Wendy, and get some new folks around them, honey. There's got to be some ladies in the Potomac River area, DC area that can bring something to the table. These shows need some new life. And we already talked about Real Housewives of Atlanta. And child, there is all kinds of things unfolding over there, honey. And we will come back and do just kind of a shake-up show talking about the new cast changes, because there's been some more announcements over there too. Kenya's slated to come back. I don't know how y'all feel about that. I'm not in love with it, but she's now been confirmed to be back. Drew's coming back. Portia will be there. Sonia will not. Marlo will not. I have not heard anything about Sheree, but it looks like she will not. There have been a couple of new ladies that are announced, but so let's talk about with Robyn, Nneka, and Candiace gone. So we have, for Potomac, we have Dr. Wendy, Karen, Gizelle, Mia, which of course she would be back. And so when I said Dr. Wendy and Karen, God knows I meant to keep Mia in that mix for sure. Without Mia, child, they don't have a show right now. And Ashley looks like so far, but I'm hoping that there's another announcement coming, y'all. I'm holding out for it. We'll see. Y'all tell me what you think, honey. I mean, who do y'all want to see go? I mean, are y'all happy about the 3 that aren't coming back? I'm on the fence with Candiace, but I'm happy to hear that it's good news for her that she's going to have a baby, and I'm really happy for them. Robyn and Nneka, good riddance. I'm hoping to hear that Ashley's getting the axe next. What do you guys think? Let me know. And guys, let me just say this. Thank you so much for your support. We are still in pursuit of our next goal of 3,000 subscribers. So guys, please keep sharing our content. We're going to keep bringing it to you. Also, we are going to be in Atlanta on April 27th at the iHeart Black Effects Podcast Festival. Again, we're there to learn and network. If you happen to be there and you see us, please come up, chat, let's take a photo, let's talk. We appreciate your support. The podcast festival will be at Pullman Yards in Atlanta, Georgia. They've got a host of really good lineup of some very successful podcast hosts, particularly in the Black Effects family. Charlamagne the God will be there. Jess Hilarious, Pretty V, B Dot, lots of folks. So if you can and you haven't, tickets are still available. Come on out, check us out. We'll be there. We will be back on Thursday to recap Married at First Sight, Denver. And y'all, we got a lot to talk about on that too, y'all. You go away for a week and my goodness. So y'all, again, I'm going to say thank you so much for your support and for tuning in for this episode. Child, like I said, put it in the comments. Give me y'all's thoughts on season 8 of Real Housewives of Potomac. Disappointment is an understatement. Cash shakeups, much needed. Let me know your thoughts, guys. As always, I am so thankful for each and every one of y'all. Keep tuning in, keep coming back, because we're going to be back. Y'all have a wonderful day. Bye, guys.